Here is the hardest truth I have learned in 20 years of clinical work. Safety is the most terrifying sensation on earth. But today I want to cover something more nuanced. What to do when the score is perfect, when you've checked every box, but your body is bucking with fear because it doesn't feel safe to feel safe. Act 1, the biohacking illusion. People go to the internet every single day and type in questions like, what is a good HRV score for my age? Or why does HRV matter for fitness and recovery? We've become obsessed with our wearables, our Oura rings, our Whoop straps, our chest monitors. We want the data. We want the green light that says we're optimized. We're always looking for a sign that we're okay. Don't get me wrong, I wear an Oura ring and an Apple Watch. But what happens when the data says you are a peak performing athlete, but your body feels like it's been hit by a truck? Let's look at my log from December 18th, 2025. My Oura sleep score was an 87, my readiness high. My resting heart rate dropped to a beautiful 45 beats per minute. On paper, I was an elite machine operating at peak efficiency. So why did I wake up with a hoarse voice, barely able to whisper? Why did my legs feel heavy, like wet concrete? Why did I have a deep tired inside my bones that coffee couldn't touch, coupled with waves of nausea? I wasn't sick, I was recalibrating. Act 2, the hangover of healing. The day before I pushed the envelope relevant to my surgical recovery protocol. I did power yoga, twisting a rib cage that was surgically reconstructed only a year previously. And that night, I did a practice called rib raking. I'm mechanically breaking up the fascial fuzz on my diaphragm to release 24 years of stored scar tissue. The physical result? My skin turned red, hot, and itchy. It was a massive histamine release. I was physically breaking the chemical seal on decades of stored trauma. But the psychological echo was even louder. I woke up with a ghost whispering in my head, "Something is deeply wrong with me." And for a moment, I believed it. My emotional skin felt paper thin, and I felt intensely vulnerable. In the past, back in the Oakland crime scene we talked about in episode 2, I would have spiraled into a panic attack. I would have thought I was broken. I would have fought the tiredness with caffeine, overriding what my body needed with extraordinary willpower. So again, people search every day for how to fix a crashing HRV score during stress, and we'll get there. But today I want to cover something more nuanced. What to do when the score is perfect, when you've checked every box, but your body is bucking with fear because it doesn't feel safe to feel safe. Act 3. The terror of surrender. Here is the hardest truth I have learned in 20 years of clinical work, and I am living it right now. For a trauma survivor, and let me be clear that every single one of us to a certain degree, for anybody that's actually grown accustomed to the chemical cocktail of adrenaline, willpower, and fighting for control, for anyone who is accustomed to feeling stressed out and is using any means necessary to cope with how overwhelming work is, parenting is, adulting is, safety is the most terrifying sensation on earth. For 24 years, my normal was suffocation. I had a paralyzed diaphragm. To breathe, I had to be vigilant. If I let my guard down, I could go into a low oxygen state that would induce panic. My brainstem hardwired a simple, terrifying rule: relaxation equals death. Now, that hardware is fixed. The hole in my bucket is patched, and I'm inviting my body to enter deep sleep and true safety. My body is scared. My example might be extreme, and I use it to drive a point home, but I see this time and time again with my clients. The tools we learn start to work, and they start to settle down into the heart and body and stop running on empty, and clients come up against it. It does not feel safe to feel safe. It does not feel safe to go slow. It does not feel safe to just be. It does not feel safe to relax. It does not feel safe to be alone with one's own body, mind, and spirit. It does not feel safe to be undistracted. Most people don't identify this accurately. They just check their phone every time they sit down, or fall asleep when there's nothing to do, or ruminate about their problems at the red light, or clean the house to stay busy. Or underneath all of it is one thing: we don't feel safe to feel safe, and the only way out is through. So that deep tired I felt after the rib raking, despite a high HRV, a low resting heart rate, and 90 minutes of deep sleep, it wasn't exhaustion, it was parasympathetic inertia. My nervous system was pulling the emergency brake. because it actually has a pacing wisdom that is brilliant beyond measure. And like my first trauma therapist and grad school mentor, Terry, would say in her southern twang, sugar, in trauma therapy, slow is the new fast. Act 4, the limits of data. This is where the biohacking industry fails us. You see articles on biohacking the vagus nerve to increase heart rate variability overnight. You read debates about RMSSD versus SDNN and which metric you should track, and they tell you to just optimize your sleep. But listen to me, you cannot optimize a system that is afraid to let go. I was experiencing relaxation-induced anxiety and vagal turbulence. And let's break down the biology of what was actually happening in terms of my symptoms. 1, the hoarse voice. This was my vagus nerve, specifically the recurrent laryngeal branch, going offline to recharge after holding the frequency of safety all day yesterday. 2, the weak legs. This was my psoas muscle, which connects directly to the diaphragm, letting go of 20 years of bracing. The old tension was gone, but the new strength hadn't arrived yet. 3, the nausea. This is the one that scares people. My stomach felt wobbly. Why? Because the vagus nerve is the gut-brain superhighway. As I shifted from fight or flight into rest and digest, the signal to my stomach was rebooting. This wasn't sickness. It was visceral motility returning. My gut was releasing the fear. Act 5, the paradox of progress. If you're listening to this and think, oh my gosh, this sounds exhausting. I don't know if I can do all this. Let me stop you right there. I am playing a different game than you might be. I've been watering this garden for 20 years. My baseline metrics are already in the top 1%. For me to move the needle from great to mastery, I have to work for every inch. But the beginner, the person just starting to understand this nervous system, it's entirely different. You have low-hanging fruit everywhere. If you have never done this work, simply learning to breathe through your nose and not out of your mouth won't feel like a grind, it will feel like a miracle. New clients often see dramatic, life-changing results in weeks because they are moving from pathology and suffering straight up to baseline health. I'm digging for gemstones in the bedrock, you're picking up gold off the floor. So don't let my deep work stop you from starting your rapid growth. I'm just showing you the path all the way through. And for those coming up against obstacles, I'm here to say I see you too. Getting to the marrow of life is an ongoing cultivation that never ends. And at a certain point, you know that the work is worth it, even when, aside from, and especially because it's challenging. Act 6, the protocol. So what do you do when safety feels like danger and your stomach turns? You don't push. You don't force it. You don't let the Aura app tell you what your body knows much more deeply. You negotiate. That next day, despite my high readiness score, I didn't lift heavy weights. I didn't even go to the gym. And when I walked in the woods, I sauntered slowly, listening to the birds singing, and I left my rucksack in the car. I cleared the pipes. Slow is the new fast. What else did I do? Well, step 1, the sewage system. I performed a 6-point lymphatic drainage routine. The big 6, the itch and the nausea were metabolic traffic jams, and by tapping and rubbing these nodes, I gave the histamine a clear exit route. Step 2, the gut soothe. I sipped warm ginger tea, no ice water, I didn't force food, I let the nausea pass as the organs settle into their new homes. Step 3, the vagal activation. I practice humming with long exhales. This soothes the vocal cords, and I added a slight suspension at the end of the exhale to activate a perennial lift and allow my brain to better uptake oxygen. This manually brings the vagus nerve back online from the root up and gives my brain the most important fuel it needs to feel safe, the breath of life. Step 4, the grounding. I put my legs up the wall to drain the fluids and ground my psoas. In step 5, the kindness. I treated that something is wrong voice with radical kindness. I said, I know you're scared, but the war is over. We can rest now. The past can't hurt me. Moving forward with gratitude, grace, and ease sets me free. If you're doing this work, the therapy, the breath work, the physical training, and you hit a wall of exhaustion, nausea, or wrongness, of course, check in with a qualified guide and always do your medical due diligence. But don't stop. Just go slow. Macho is the real meek. There is no 5-minute HRV hack. That YouTube channel is lying to you. because we live in an attention economy, and that influencer wants your most precious assets, attention and energy. You haven't failed. You have just reached the fear of safety, where your body knows it's no longer going to keep getting its fix of adrenaline on a daily basis. You are learning to operate from a deeper, more sustainable fuel system, love. And the part of you that thinks it needs the fear is going to buck and kick before you let it go. This is the deep work. We are not just fixing muscles. We are rewiring the soul's capacity to trust the body, to trust life, to trust the ancient wisdom, the biological proof, and the clinical acumen, the ABCs. I am Michael Boyle. I am patient zero. And that day, my victory was simply letting myself go slow, which is the fastest path to peace. Welcome to the experiment. Together we thrive.